Lesson number 1. Learning basic functions of Procreate using texture creation examples. We will begin getting acquainted with Procreate by creating textures. For starters, we create a canvas. Press the plus and input the following parameters. 29 cm by 21 cm. Make sure it's in centimeter. Quality 450 dpi. I'd like to point out that if you make the quality lower, the number of layers increases, and vice versa, the higher, they decrease. We will discuss the importance of the number of layers in more detail during the creation of the sketch. The rest of the settings we leave as they are. Click on the Create button to open a clean, white canvas. To zoom in and out, you use your fingers. In the top left corner, where the settings are, we can view all the information about our canvas. We can change our parameters. We can manually make the canvas wider or longer. The bigger the canvas, the less layers you'll have. I have prepared for you a collection of basic brushes that are often used in the creation of interior/exterior sketches, and will now show you how to add them to Procreate. Open your Downloads folder, click on Interior Sketch, and our collection automatically gets added in Procreate. If you need to delete a group of brushes, click on the name and select Delete. Next, we will learn about the reference function. Open your settings and turn on reference. Import the needed image, in our case it's textures, and that little window is going to serve as our hint. You can move it and change its size as you wish. Let's create a background for our sketch. In the upper right corner, there is a palette. You can recreate my background, or choose any other color for the background and any other future textures. To copy the exact color, input the same numbers as in the video. You can also create your own palette. Click on plus and in the empty window, using your stylus, add colors to your palette. You can also change the name of the palette. It's really handy if you create, for example, different perspectives of the same interior. Let's copy the background color from our reference. For that, you will select the background with your finger, and you'll see that the color automatically copies itself into your palette. Drag your circle onto the white canvas and our background becomes light gray. Add a new layer. Press the plus and we will begin drawing a rectangle for the future texture. Select the color black and the rapidograph brush. Now, we will learn how to draw clean, straight lines. For that, you will need the Drawing Assistant function. Open your settings, turn on Drawing Guide and open up the Edit Drawing Guide. As you can see, there are 4 assisting options. For the creation of this sketch, we will need the first option, 2D Grid. The rest we will use in other lessons, and we'll discuss them in more detail then. As we can see, a net appears, and now we must turn on the Drawing Assistant itself. To turn on the assistant, click on the button between the runners, or you can go to Layers, click on the layer, and choose the Drawing Assist function. Now, no matter how you handle the stylus, it will only draw straight lines. Start drawing the rectangle. The runners on the right, you can move them to the left, regulate the thickness of the brush, and the bottom the saturation. For the outline, choose a less thick brush so that it looks more clean. Make sure you are drawing on a separate layer. The net is a bit distracting for me, so I will turn it off. It does not affect the assistant function. Create a new layer between the contour and background, and now we will learn how to fill on our object. Choose the color brown. You can copy the same color, or choose one you prefer. The brush is a dense brush, and begin coloring your rectangle. This method of filling in is not my favorite as it is too lengthy and not clean. That's why I'll show you a quicker method. Go to little squiggly line. We can choose the freehand the selected, but since we have a simple shape, we can just select the rectangle. Drag the stylus from point to point and click on the Color Fill tool. As you can see, the rectangle is automatically filled with color. While the object is selected, we can change the color. Let's create a shadow on our rectangle. Choose a darker color. Copic marker brush. Increase the size of the brush and decrease the opacity. With light strokes, begin drawing. As you can see, we are going outside the rectangle lines. To prevent that from happening, turn on Alpha Lock. Go to your layer and choose the Alpha Lock function. Now if you draw, you will see that you are not drawing outside the filled-in shape. Next we will learn how to use the Copic brush. The basic principle of this brush is, at first you press with your stylus, and then you relax the wrist and spread the color. This brush requires a lot of practice and time. We will be sneaky now, in order to quickly remove all the imperfections. Choose a light color and shade the left side. As you can see, it turns out not straight and there are smears. We will fix that. Go to the little wand icon and select the Gaussian blur. Drag the stylus to the right and you'll see how beautifully everything evens out. Next, we will draw the veins. We use the Copic brush, dark brown color, minimal size, and medium opacity. Draw using the reference, or use a different image of a tree, or from memory. It's your choice. Begin drawing. Press and relax so that the line will vary in thickness and opacity. At first work with the darker color, then the lighter one. It's best to know how to draw everything by hand. Of course, you can use ready images and create patterns from them, or use texture brushes. However, hand drawings will always make you stand out compared to other sketchers and will highlight your professionalism. Don't draw too many veins, or else you will lose the texture of the tree. In this example, we will be introduced to changing the color. The color can be more saturated, brighter, or changed into a completely different color. I like this result. Now we can work on the presentation of our texture. Turn on Drawing Assist and start the light line from the left. Select the darker color and create the line on the bottom. Duplicate the layer with the contour and turn it off. Return to your main layer and turn on alpha lock. We will change the color of our frame to brown. You can keep it black, or you can make the contour black. I like it when the contour resembles the main color. You can copy this piece of wood, connect it with each other, and create a seamless pattern for your sketches. Let's create a shadow under the piece of wood. For this, we will combine the layers. Select the layer with the contour and the layer with the texture, and with this movement, combine them into one layer. Duplicate the layer. Go to the bottom one. Click on the arrow and move it. You can equilaterally move it, freely change the size, distort, and change the shape. In this case, we just need to move it. Carefully move the image. Go to little wand icon and make your background black. Next, turn on blur. As you can see, nothing happens. That is because alpha lock is on. Turn off the lock and again turn on blur. I think the shadow turned out too dark, so we will turn down the layer opacity. There are different layer modes. Now, we are working in normal mode. We will explore the others in the next lesson. Moving on to the creation of the next texture. Go to the layer with the contour, which we copied. Click on the arrow to move it. We copied it, so we'd have the same size piece of wood. For comfort, we can turn off the other layers. For that, click on the check marks or long press the very top layer and the others will turn off automatically. Create a layer on top of the contour, select a light gray color and do a quick fill in as we learned earlier. Choose a white color and you'll see that this brush does not draw at all. That's why for the light part we will use the Copic brush. Turn on blur. Choose a darker gray color and choose the rust brush. Increase the size of the brush, and without pressing too hard on the stylus, with light strokes color the background. Choose an even darker color. Add to the right side of the darker one, and we will not work with the light color. You can mix it with the metal brush. They are alike. Most times those brushes are used for walls to create a concrete effect. For walls, it is used to form decorative plaster. Now we will work on the contour. You can leave it black or make it white, which will also look very pretty. And we'll create a shadow. Combine the texture and contour into one layer. With the help of an eraser and drawing assist, we can remove the excess. I think the edges turned out too thick and messy. The eraser can be any of the brushes from the collections. I will show you a hidden function of Procreate. For an example, you choose a brush with leaves asterisk, and for the eraser to also be this brush, all you have to do is long press the button and this brush will automatically be added into the list of erasers. Usually, though, the eraser used is from the standard painting collection. Let's return to the creation of the shadow. Don't forget to turn off layer alpha lock. Darken the bottom layer, blur it, and reduce the transparency of the layer. Moving on to the creation of the third texture. Create a new layer. Rapidograph brush, black color, turn on drawing assist, and draw a free shape for our future texture. To undo an action, press the screen with 2 fingers. For comfort, turn off the other layers, keeping the contour and background. Next, fill in the new layer. I chose a green color. You can copy the current colors. Select autofill. If it didn't quite fully reach, you can use the same brush. With the help of drawing assist, quickly fill in the blanks. Block the layer and create the shadow. Choose a dark green color, Copic brush, and create a shadow. Use the blur function. Create a new layer on top of the background and turn on clipping mask. Choose a black color. In the brush collection, choose the tile texture brush, and draw with it on top of the background. As you can see, clipping mask works similarly to alpha block, in that we are working on a new layer, but at the same time we don't go outside the outline of the bottom layer. If we create a new layer on top of the background, this layer will automatically be on with the clipping mask. Working on the new layer, click on Selection, and we'll begin individually picking our cells, every other one. It might happen that you accidentally turned off the selection, but you already had a lot selected. Don't worry. In order to return all that was already selected, you just need to click on Selection, and the previous selections will show up, and you may proceed to select the rest of the areas. Don't compare yourself to my drawing pace, do your own work at your own pace. The most important thing is for the work to be done well and clean. Speed will come with practice. Without turning off our selection, go to your brushes folder, choose the Copic brush, use a dark green color, and we'll start giving depth to each of our selected cells. At first, we'll work with a dark color, and then we'll add a light, almost lime shade. At the same time, I would like to introduce you to the invert function. Hold the little wand icon, click on Invert, and you'll see that the selected area changes places. With the help of the arrow, without turning off the selection, you can delete, copy, move to a different layer the selected object. To copy/duplicate using 3 fingers, slide them down on the screen and a quick menu will appear with all the functions. Let's return to our 3D texture and select the other cell so that when we color, it won't affect the adjacent ones. Repeat all the same steps as we've done with the previous cells. Use the Copic brush, and we'll try to change the color using the little wand icon. Work with the darker shades first, and then the lighter ones. Using these simple movements, the 3D texture becomes more clear with prominent cells. I want to show you another 3D effect. For that, we will go to the layer with the contour of the tile. Duplicate the layer. Go to the duplicated layer of the contour, press the arrow and move the contour below the main. Pick up the little wand icon and make the contour lighter. As such, you can finish the texture by changing the color of the contour itself. You can experiment with different colors. Combine the layers of our texture and create a shadow. Turn on the other layers for the full picture. Darken our shadow, turn on blur and reduce the layer transparency. We can make the shadow white, but that doesn't suit us now. We can also turn on the motion blur. Depending in which direction you move the stylus, that's going to be the direction of the blur. For now we'll stick with the classic blur. Don't forget to decrease the layer transparency so that our shadows look the same. Create a new layer and begin the last texture. Choose the rapidograph brush, black color, and we'll learn how to draw a circle. Draw the circle freehand and press the stylus. A menu will appear on top where you can choose an ellipse or a circle. Choose the circle. That's the first option. Using 2 fingers, undo the action. Using this method, you can try drawing other shapes, pressing on the stylus at the end, for example a polyangle or a square. Draw a circle again, hold the stylus, and using 1 finger, tap the screen to change the shape. It turns into a perfect circle. When we have a closed line object, you can fill it with color by dragging the color from the palette. Undo the fill action. Turn on the other layers to check how the circle compares to the other textures and continue drawing. Leave the layer with the contour, create a new layer underneath it and fill it in with a warm orange color. In this case, you can fill in the form using the ellipse, or we can use an exact selection. Select using an uninterrupted line, or individually, or you can fill it all with color using the dense sketch brush. Next, repeat all the steps as we've done for the previous textures. Block the layer, choose the Copic brush and create a shadow. Remove all the imperfections using blur, and create a new layer on top of the background layer. Turn on clipping mask. Choose a dark orange color, brown, and the rust brush. Carefully outline the circle. Duplicate the layer, and on the top layer we will learn about blending modes. We need the add mode. You can list through the modes to see how the color of the circle changes. Go to the bottom layer. With the use of the little wand icon, we will darken it a bit. Now, with the use of the arrow, we will move the layer a bit lower than the top one. Darken the layer even more and reduce the layer transparency. Also reduce the top layer transparency. Create another layer, turn on the clipping mask, add blending mode. Choose a more saturated orange color, same brush, and with light strokes go over the texture, adding a beautiful golden effect. Remove the black contour. Block the contour and with fast movements, change the color of the contour. Create a shadow. Combine the layers. There is a peculiarity here. If the blending modes are different for the layers, when you combine them, they lose their quality. Look, combine normal with add, and the glowing effect disappears. That means we can combine the same blending mode layers. That's what we will do for our shadow. We only need to combine the two layers. Duplicate. As we can see, we have 4 very beautiful textures, and we learned the basic functions of Procreate. Turn off layer block, darken, and blur. As we can see, we have 4 very beautiful textures, and we learned the basic functions of Procreate. Let's work further on our background. As you can see in the example, my background is grainy. We will recreate this effect with you. Go to the background layer, little wand icon, and choose the noise function. Zoom in on the background and drag the stylus to the right. How to save the sketch, or how to save the texture without the background. For example, choose the wood texture. Go to Settings and add your texture. You can add simply, or you can do so privately, then the addition won't be seen in the time-lapse recording. You can see your texture without any background, move it, mirror it, horizontally/vertically, turn or copy to create a floor for example. In order to equally move the object, turn on the magnet function. It's a really useful tool which we will learn in the next lesson. Delete the inserted object, and add a name to the sketch. Go to Settings, add text and type textures. Select the text and you'll see, as in Word, there are different fonts, sizes, distances, and capitalization. With the arrow, move the text up. I can also show you how to add a gradient to the text. Click on the layer with the text and turn off the rasterize function and block layer. Choose the Copic brush, a different color, and go over the text. You can also create a shadow to the text. The principle is the same. Duplicate, darken, blur, and move. It's important to know that as soon as you turn off the rasterize function, you cannot change the text. Only in text mode will you be able to change the text. Now I suggest we watch the whole process of the creation of the sketch. Go to Settings, Video tab, and Time-lapse. Reproduce the video. With the help of the stylus, you can speed up or stop the motion. You can save this video. If the process of creation of the sketch is too long, the program will offer to save the full version, or the sped up one, 30 seconds. If your textures end up being not centered, you can select all the layers with the stylus and move them to the left. Turn on the arrow and they will all move to the center. How to cut and paste an image we will learn in the next lesson, collage creation. I'm sure your textures will turn out great. I'm awaiting your results and looking forward to the next lesson.